The U.S. Supreme Court now says it's perfectly fine and legal for states to allow sports betting. And here in the great state of Texas, it should happen. Hey, everybody, I'm Chad Hasty, host of the Chad Hasty Show, which airs weekday mornings, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Reading from the Texas Tribune today, the Supreme Court on Monday held that Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, a 1992 federal law that barred states from legalizing sports gambling, violates the U.S. Constitution. The ruling was on a New Jersey case born out of the state's efforts back in 2014 to repeal a sports betting ban, allowing the state to regulate such behavior. Quote, Congress can regulate sports gambling directly, but if it elects not to do so, each state is free to act on its own, said Justice Samuel Alito, writing in the majority. Our job is to interpret the law Congress has enacted and decide whether it's consistent with the Constitution. PASPA is not. PASPA standing for Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, there from 1992. Of course, Texas officials have been pretty quiet about this ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court. Back in 2015, Governor Abbott asked state lottery officials to stop collecting information about potential sports betting games, writing that he did not want the agency to consider any expansions. But listen, and this is where I probably separate a little bit from many of the Republicans down in the state legislature. We should have betting. We should have gambling in the state of Texas. Actually, we already do, but it's sanctioned by the government. That'd be scratch off and lottery tickets. But adults should be able to go and bet on sporting events. There's no question that adults should be able to regulate their own behavior and spend their money on whatever they want to. Some of these arguments that I see that, it's a poor tax or that people will spend money on things where they're not supposed to, that's not the government's job. The government's job isn't to protect you from spending way too much money on something that you're not really needing to spend money on. As an adult, you should be able to place a bet on a sporting event. Now that the U.S. Supreme Court has said it's in line with the Constitution and states can make up their own laws, the state of Texas should absolutely allow adults to participate in adult behavior, and one of those items would be sports betting. Now, I understand there are some people who say, wait a minute, it would grow government because you'd have to have another government agency look after, gambling and sports betting and even casino gambling, which I'll probably touch on at some other point. And that may be the case, but that's kind of a bad excuse, really. We already have that in the form of the state lottery. Again, if you're an adult, you should be able to place a bet on a sporting event. This comes down to me, individual freedom, individual liberty, and not relying on the government to protect you from yourself and your bad decisions. If you want to bet on, let's say the Texas Rangers winning the World Series, probably a bad bet, but the state of Texas shouldn't be able to prohibit you from making that bet. I don't think it's going to change. I don't think you're going to see the state of Texas expand gambling here in the state, but they should, because it comes down to a personal liberty issue, in my opinion. This is where I come down. Maybe it's libertarian. I don't know. To me, it's liberty. It's personal liberty. It is being able to do what you want to do with your own money and not relying on the government to protect you from your own bad decisions. I would love to see Texas lawmakers come out and say, hey, you're perfectly fine and able to do sports betting, but again, I don't see it happening. One more thing, or a couple more things I want to say about this. Let's just say that Texas officials decide to allow sports betting here in Texas, that money does not need to be designated for education or anything else. It needs to go into a general fund, and then every couple of years when the legislature meets, divvy up the money that you have. We don't need to earmark it for any one thing or the other, because you just don't know how much people are going to spend on gaming from one year to the next. It may go up, it may go down. Another thing, I'm sure a lot of states surrounding Texas will probably implement this and allow people to, adults, to place bets on different games. And it'll be the state of Texas that loses out on this, because you're going to see a lot more money continue to flow out of Texas and into our neighboring states. Come on, Texas officials. Let's go ahead and allow people to bet on the Texas Rangers, the Dallas Cowboys, Texas Tech Red Raiders, University of Texas Longhorns, and whoever else they want to place a bet on. It comes down to individual freedom, in my opinion. Tune in to the Chad Hasty Show weekday mornings, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time. News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO.